Good morning and welcome to Market Cafe. You're on ET Now with me, Lisa Fernandez, and I have my colleague with me, Ms. Snehi Shah. Good morning, Snehi.
Good morning, Lisa.
Well, we are in the final trading week of August, and we are going to bring out to you all the headlines, the important cues that you have to watch out for international as well as domestic front. But first, let's start with the international market that Snehi has tracked very closely for us. Snehi?
Absolutely, Lisa. Good morning to you and wishing a very good morning to all our viewers, and thanks for logging on early on Monday morning with us. With that, let's take a look at what the US markets did, and stock futures rose slightly to kick off the final trading week of August. Stocks are coming off a winning session following fresh remarks from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.7% on Friday, but finished the week with a 0.5% down tick. Now, the S&P 500 added about 0.7%, while the Nasdaq Composite advanced about 1%. Now, both the broad-based and tech-heavy index notched their first winning week in 4 weeks, adding about 0.8% and 2.3% respectively. Now, speaking Friday at the annual Central Bank Conference in Jackson Hole in Wyoming, Powell pointed to some signs of continued economic growth and strong consumer spending, but indicated that the central bank would proceed carefully with additional hikes. So let's look at what all three indices have done then, and Dow Jones finished the week 0.5% lower, down 3.4% for the month, but up 3.6% for the year so far. S&P 500 is up 0.8% for the week, down 4% for a month, and up 14.8% YTD. And lastly, Nasdaq Composite has closed up 2.3% for the week, so big gains coming for the Nasdaq there, down 5.3% for the month of August, but up almost 30% on a YTD basis. So this is what the European markets are looking like. The US markets are looking like. Let's get a move on to the European markets then. And European markets closed mixed on Friday as traders reacted to comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium. Now, the Pan-European Stock 600 ended flat for the session, pairing earlier gains with sectors and major bosses pointing in the opposite direction. However, DAX and FTSE closed with a nominal uptick in the green, very marginal gains coming there for Europe as well. So largely mixed handover coming in globally, Lisa.
Well, let's look at what's happening on the crude front as well as on the commodities front. So oil futures, they climbed up around 1% to a one-week high over the weekend, and the oil prices were up over a slew of reasons, one being that US diesel prices, they soared up around 5% to a 7-month high, and that is since January 2023. That boosted the diesel crack spread, and also the worries about diesel shortages when refineries, they go into maintenance. And also US energy firms, they cut the number of active oil rigs for the 9th straight month. And another reason being that fire also broke out in a Louisiana refinery. So all that contributed to rise in prices of crude. So if I look at the crude oil prices, the WTI, it's around $80.07 per barrel, and the Brent crude oil, it's about $84 per barrel. Talking about the gold prices, it settled at around $1,944 per ounce, and that dropped after Powell leave the door open to more rate hikes. So that's on the crude as well as commodity check.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lisa, for taking us through that. With that, let's also look at all the cues that you need to be keeping on your track for the week coming ahead. And on the 31st of August, we're going to have some important data coming out, and that's the India GDP as well as the India fiscal deficit number coming out. So lots of important numbers. Keep an eye out for this data. On the primary market action, and lots of action coming in on the IPO front as well, because August 28th, which is today, Vishnu Prakash Arpunglia IPO will close for subscription. August 30th to September 1, Rishabh Instruments IPO will open for subscription. And the 31st of August, Aeroflex Industries will list on the exchanges. Now, remember, Aeroflex Industries has seen a lot of subscription. So we will keep an eye out on how this lists on the bourses then. On the corporate action front, today is the Piramal Enterprise Investors Day. So the stock will be in focus today. Keep an eye out for that one. 31st August is the MSCI adjustment date as well. And today is obviously the big boy on the street. Reliance Industries will have its annual general meeting today. The stock will be in focus, and lots of important highlights will be coming in from the Reliance management as well as the board. Now on 29th of August, you've got Jubilant Foodworks that will have its AGM, as well as the 30th of August you have Apollo Hospitals and ICICI Bank that will hold their AGMs. So important week coming up, lots of cues lined up ahead. Keep an eye out for all of this action on D Street for this week.
Right, but let's look at the top stories too on the global front. Despite cooling off from the peak, inflation continues to run hot, warns Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole meet. Powell said that he's calling out for more vigilance in the fight against inflation and also warned that additional interest rate increases could be yet to come. He added that the US economy was not cooling as expected and that is keeping the inflation quite sticky. He noted that the Fed will remain flexible as it contemplates further moves but gave little indication that it is ready to start easing anytime soon. Listen in.
Although inflation has moved down from its peak, a welcome development, it remains too high. We are prepared to raise rates further if appropriate and intend to hold policy at a restrictive level until we are confident that inflation is moving sustainably down toward our objective. At upcoming meetings, we will assess our progress based on the totality of the data and the evolving outlook and risks. Based on this assessment, we will proceed carefully as we decide whether to tighten further or instead to hold the policy rate constant and await further data. Restoring price stability is essential to achieving both sides of our dual mandate. We will need price stability to achieve a sustained period of strong labor market conditions that benefit all. And we will keep at it until the job is done.
All right, that's the word coming in from the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. But with another important cue that we are tracking for you this morning then, industrial data from China for the month of July. Output for the month was up 5.6%, missing expectations by a large margin. Meanwhile, firm profits fell 6.7%, extending the slump into the 7th month amid faltering demand. Retail sales jumped 18%, again missing that 21% expectation mark, still significantly faster than the 10% uptick that was seen in March.
And shifting focus to some earnings, Credit Suisse reports in its Q2 earnings, they reported a loss of around $4 billion. And remember that the bank had already predicted a significant pre-tax loss for the second quarter and full year 2023 in April. Now, this comes after its exit from non-core businesses and also due to restructuring as well as financing cost.
And the world's most indebted property developer, Evergrande, reported a narrow net loss for the first half of the year due to the rise in revenue. Remember, the developer is at the center of a crisis in China's property sector since late 2021, as it has seen a string of debt defaults, unfinished homes, and unpaid suppliers, shattering consumer confidence in the world's second largest economy.
And with that, let's slip into a short break. More news and updates on the other side of the break, so stay tuned on the show.
Hi there, good morning, welcome back and thanks for staying tuned to Market Cafe. This is ET Now. Now, before we move on with the show, let's take a look at how the Asian markets have opened up this morning. And Asia Pacific markets started the final trading week of August higher, largely higher after Jerome Powell's speech talking about keeping the door open for further rate hikes. Let's take a look at Hang Seng. Hang Seng is up a whopping 2.5% this morning. Very positive start coming in for Hang Seng this morning. Let's also look at what the other indices are doing. And let's take a look at what Nikkei is doing. Nikkei is also up 1.6% this morning, largely in the green. Positive gains coming in for Nikkei as well. Followed by that, we've also got Kospi. Kospi is also trading in the green, up almost 0.7% in the green. So gains coming in for the Kospi as well. And let's look at also what Australia is doing. ASX 200, you've got with an uptick of 0.6%. Now remember, this is ahead of the country's July retail sales data that is expected later today. So the Asian markets largely in the green. Now the GIFT Nifty is at 19,278 levels, which is very close to where the Nifty had closed on Friday. So let's see how this pans out for our markets this morning, Lisa. And all eyes will be on Big Boy Reliance then, because the company will have its 46th annual general meeting today. So Somi joins in with us to tell us what to expect from the meeting. Somi, take it away. All right, I think we have a technical snack coming in on Saumit's line. With that, let's slip into a very short break. But on the other side, we will be joined by Saumit on Reliance AGM and what you can expect from that. Hi there, welcome back and thanks for staying tuned to Market Cafe. This is ET Now. Now, as promised to you before the break, we have Saumit who's joining in with us to take us through what you can expect and what you should keep an eye out for the Reliance 46th AGM today. Saumit, take it away.
Well, investor expectations are largely muted ahead of the AGM, which is expected to be which will be held today at 2 p.m. But these are some announcements which still investors would want to hear more details coming in from the chairman who will be speaking in the AGM today at 2 p.m. Now, firstly on value unlocking. Now, last year the chairman mentioned that they are aiming to double Reliance Industries' value over the next 5 years. Now, to double the value of Reliance Industries, value unlocking will be very critical. Now, value unlocking could be in part of stake sale or a separate listing when it comes to the two key arms of Reliance Industries, that is retail and telecom. Apart from this, also if you see, Reliance Industries has various other businesses, like they also own land assets in Haryana, around 8,250 acre of land assets. So any value unlocking related to other businesses of Reliance Industries would also be important to track. Apart from that, Jio Financial, which listed last week, saw continuous a lower circuit for 4 consecutive days, and on Friday it at least it did not hit a lower circuit. So what is the roadmap or the business plan going ahead would be important to track. Along with this, what is the official launch date for the services of Jio Financial would also be something important that the investors would be wanting to hear from the chairman himself. Now, when it comes to the new energy business, in their annual report, Reliance Industries did mention that they're willing to double their investment in this business. Now, in 2020, they had committed close to 75,000 crore rupees of capex over the next 5 years. Now, if they're doubling their investment, how are they going to spend it is something that the street would want to know. And along with this, what is the timeline for the project commissioning and what is the kind of earnings potential that they're seeing from the various projects would be something important to track from our Reliance Industries AGM. Lastly, on the telecom business, when it comes, the street is expecting the launch of a new 5G smartphone. Now, earlier they had launched 5G smartphones in the affordable segment, but this time the street is expecting a couple of 5G smartphone launches when it comes to 10 to 15,000 bracket, which is a bit higher compared to the affordable segment. Now, this could also lead to a new leg of growth for the telecom business going forward. So, launch of 5G smartphone, investments in the new energy, value unlocking, and Jio Financial roadmap is something that the street would be wanting to hear from Reliance Industries AGM today.
Thank you, Saumit, for taking us through what to expect at the 46th AGM of Reliance. But you did touch upon the Jio Financial Services as well on the growth plans ahead. Well, the new kid on the block, Jio Financial Services, they have been seeing immense selling pressure since listing. So take us through a deep dive into the pricing action and tell us more about it.
Well, Jio Financial listed on Monday, and for the first 4 trading sessions, we continuously saw a lower circuit of 5% on the share prices. Now, even on Friday, if you see on BSE, it closed lower by around 2%, but on the NSE, it was higher by around 0.5%. Now, on the both exchanges, if you see, so far around 43 crore of shares have been traded, and now we were expecting a selling coming in for Jio Financial from the massive from the passive mutual fund holders and from the GDR holders. Now, that around 30 to 31 crore of shares of selling was expected when it comes to Jio Financial, and so far around 43 crore shares have traded, but we cannot confirmly say whether all the mutual fund or the GDR holders have completely exited from Jio Financial yet. In fact, on Friday there was a bundle data also coming in which said that Motilal Oswal mutual fund bought in some shares in Jio Financial. Now, the discovered base price for Jio Financial was at around 261.85, and at that the market capitalization was at close to 1.7 lakh crore rupees. However, so far the market capitalization of the company has come down by around 27,000, and at current market price, the valuation of Jio Financial stands at close to 1.2x. Now, if the stock goes on to hit another lower circuit today, or in fact on Tuesday or Wednesday, then the removal of Jio Financial from the index could further be deferred. So that is also one of the key things that an investor needs to watch on when Jio Financial would be removed from Sensex and Nifty. Now currently they are supposed to be a part of Nifty and Sensex at least till August 31st, and if they do not hit 2 consecutive days of lower circuit from Tuesday till Thursday, then most probably the stock would be removed from Nifty and Sensex. But if they do hit a lower circuit of for 2 consecutive days, then again the removal of the stock from the indices could be further deferred going forward.
All right, Somi, thanks for all those details, but continue to stay with us then, because the broader markets have outperformed benchmarks in 2023. Now, even when Nifty was down 500 points from an all-time high, the mid-cap index had been hitting new highs every day, and the small-cap index as well was nearing new highs. However, even with a sharp turn around, a handful of stocks have underperformed. So, Somi, take us through a list of all of these stocks that have missed this rally.
Well, if you see, the Nifty mid-cap index has rallied over 30%, while the Nifty small-cap index has also rallied over 35% from the March lows. But despite this sharp turnaround in the indices, there are a handful of stocks that have continued to underperform. To be specific, there are around 8 stocks that have underperformed. In the Nifty small-cap index, firstly, JK Lakshmi, the stock is down around 10-odd%. Now, there are various factors behind this. Firstly, there is no pricing power. The cost side is increasing, while demand is also expected to be muted when it comes to the cement sector. When it comes to Reddington, that stock is down around 5-odd%. Now, this is on the back of disappointing margins, not only in the fourth quarter of FY23, but also in the first quarter of FY24. Along with this, overall, the revenue of the business of the company has also declined on a sequential basis. When it comes to Campus Activewear, the stock is down around 4-odd%, and that is on the back of stiff competition coming in from their peers, and because of a weak revenue environment that we had seen for Campus Activewear. When it comes to IEX, the stock is down around 3-odd%, and this is on the back of the constant overhang coming in because of the regulatory changes. Recently, market coupling is one thing that has been a constant overhang on the share prices of IEX. And when it comes to Aegis Logistics, that stock is down around 2-odd% on the back of weak earnings and decline in LPG prices and volumes that we had seen. Now, when it comes to the Nifty mid-cap index, there are 3 stocks that have underperformed. Firstly, it's Hindustan Zinc, which is down around 4-odd% on the back of various concerns related to promoter stake sale and various other macro factors. When it comes to Gujarat Gas, the stock is down around 4-odd% because the company has been seeing stiff competition from its competing fuel, that is propane, and the margins have also been weaker for Gujarat Gas. And lastly, when it comes to Petroned LNG, that stock is down around 2-odd% from the March levels till now, and this is on the back of increasing competitive intensity, lower the hedge utilization, and rising domestic gas production, which will lead to lower export volumes and lower regasification volumes for Petroned LNG.
Thank you, Somit, for taking us through a list of stocks that have missed the broader market rally. But shifting focus now, PM Modi has called for a global framework to ensure the ethical use of artificial intelligence, as he flagged off concerns over the algorithmic bias and also the disruptive impact on society. What else are in focus from the summit? My colleague Sumit Chaturvedi is here with a whole host of exclusive interviews.
There's a lot of optimism in India on corporates as far as economy is concerned. We were here at CI B20 summit from the last few days, and corporates spoke about the challenges also that are being faced by Indian economy, but there are opportunities aplenty, including the coming festival season, during which demand can come back. Inflationary pressures are there, but they're moderating, as been told by certain corporates as well. PM Modi here spoke about India's place in the whole world, how India can be a solution provider to global supply challenges, how they can be a consumer day for consumers especially, and how India's role in global economy is becoming much and much better. With Chandrayaan's landing, there is more optimism about Indian economy as well. FM Sitaraman, she spoke here about how over the last 9 years, the reforms have taken shape, and that's improving Indian economy's overall situation. Also, we should not look at how China is slowing down, but look at how India is improving and what are opportunities that lie ahead of India. So it's quite an eventful overall summit as far as CI summit is concerned, and Delhi is preparing for G20.
And on the sidelines of the B20 summit, my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi caught up with ITC CMD Sanjeev Puri to discuss inflation concerns and its impact on domestic consumption and the future of India's growth story. Listen in to what he had to say.
Absolutely. I think the whole aspect of one world, one family, one future came out very strongly. And that's the way we have to move forward with, given the kind of challenges the world is grappling with, the climate emergency, the geopolitical dynamic. So I think it's very important for the world to come together and solve these problems collectively.
And what about the example he gave about the consumer day that should be celebrated about consumers?
I think that's a very good idea. And the way I've understood it is that consumer is not merely the person who is buying your product. He's everybody in your ecosystem, in your supply chain, your employees. So if you treat everybody with respect and with fairness and look after the well-being of everything, including the planet, I think that's how a more sustainable and inclusive world would evolve.
So going forward from here on, again, a lot of things have happened in Indian economy. Indian economy is definitely on a growth path. And from the last few days, what we were hearing that India is a beacon of hope and growth for the world economy. How do you see that India's optimism working for in the whole global economy?
See, India has many advantages. And the reforms that have happened over the last 9 years have actually transformed the economy. Whether you look at the physical infrastructure investments that have multiplied, the digital infrastructure, which is the first of its kind in the world, the innovative PLI schemes that are bringing back manufacturing into India, into sectors that are of strategic importance, the focus on technology in all frontiers, even bringing technologies into agriculture, bringing, putting resources behind development of FPOs to transform.
And at the same event, Sunil Munjal, the chairman of Hero Enterprises, spoke about the highlights of PM Modi's speech at the B20 summit. He touched upon the sustainability and also the countries using their special resources for the good of the general public.
You know, our Prime Minister has now started making such amazing aspirational speeches. One, of course, he talked about the approach to doing good. Business should not only be for bottom line. Business should look beyond itself. Business should look at the human factor. And as a business, we should also focus on benefit of consumers. The other thing he spoke about was how do we enhance and build sustainability into the DNA of the world. That in all decisions, all actions, sustainability should become a norm rather than something that we have to make a special effort for.
He also mentioned two important things. First of all, he mentioned that India can be solution provider to global supply chain problems. Also, he said that in rare earth and those materials, there's a new form of colonization that can come. How do you see these two important mentions by PM today?
Yeah, the one was clear that the global supply chains need to be more robust, more resilient, more flexible, and India can be a key player in helping do that. And we are showing early signs of that happening in any case. Second thing he said was there are some countries which are endowed with special materials, things like rare earths, etc., that they must not become protective only of those, that they must be used as a general public good for the benefit of humanity rather than only a country. Otherwise, it could be, in a sense, blow back on them.
All right, that's the word coming in from Sunil Munjal. But SP Shukla, the chairman of Mahindra Aero, Defence and Agri sectors, touches upon highlights of PM Modi's speech at the B20 summit. He says that the focus was on sustainability largely. Listen in to what he had to say.
I think his speech was quite focused and inspiring. The first focus he made was on sustainability. Very specifically, he talked about a very interesting point, and these are the things which stay in your mind. When you talk about your own health, which is important, please also think about health of the planet. It should be part of Rozmarra ki Zindagi. That's the word he used. If everything you do, you give a thought, how will it affect the planet? All our actions will become sustainable.
He also mentioned two important things, that think beyond bottom line. And he also said it's time for global companies to look at countries more than a market. How do you see these two important comments?
Again, you pointed out very important point. This is something which he pointed out, and previous 2-3 days conversations have focused on that. Global South will not remain only a market, should not remain. Global South should be seen as equal participant in the global economy. The ideas to come from global south, the manufacturing to take place in global south, needs of global south to be better understood and addressed. This was such an important point which he gave, and I believe the delegates from 20 countries will take the message home that it cannot remain a producer-customer relationship. It has to be symbiotic, synergistic relationship.
And strong growth can be seen in the artillery guns business. That's the word coming in from Bharat Forge MD Baba Kalyani. Talking exclusively to ET Now, Kalyani spoke about how the modernization of armies across the globe is a positive sign for the defense sector. Listen in to this exclusive conversation with ET Now's Sumit Chaturvedi.
Well, there's no doubt that as far as India is concerned, we have a pretty good runway ahead of us in terms of our economic growth. The government is doing its part in terms of policy perspectives, policy implementation. The industry is beginning to do its part in terms of creating capacities. But we have a lot more that we need to do on our plate. We have to somehow create, India is a large country with 1.4 billion people. We need to create a lot more inclusivity in our economic activity.
So talking about again your space in which you have a clear, quite a significant presence, Indians recently 8,000 crore, almost Defense Acquisition Council proposal that has been cleared. Lot is clearly on your plate already. 80% of your exports are happening to of defense equipments. What's your assessment as far as overall defense sector is concerned on a large scale? What's your plan going to be from here on? What's the larger picture?
I think India's defense industry is just going to keep growing. And it's going to keep growing for 2 or 3 simple reasons. Number one, the regulatory hurdle for defense manufacturing has gone, which was there before, licensing and all those kinds of things. The mindset of Indian manufacturers, the earlier mindset was like everything else, you can't do this, you have to go outside and get technology, and only then you can do it. That mindset is gone. Now, just like Chandrayaan-3, people believe that Indians themselves can send a spacecraft to the moon and land on the South Pole. Same thing is happening in defense. And that technology, just like the space, is going to be way ahead of other technologies in many areas.
And another big voice from the second day at the B20 summit then, Uday Kotak, CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank, says that existential viability should be prioritized over economic viability. He also says that private businesses should be provided with gap capital. Listen in to what he had to say.
Government has to provide those loss-bearing guarantees in addition to private capital. And therefore, the model which I believe the world needs to move to is gap funding provided by governments and supplemented by some of the current economic profits from business worldwide. And add these two and hand it over to appropriate institutions, including a multilateral institution, to be able to leverage this capital at 7, 8, 10 times. So you create a large enough pool of global capital which can go and fund on a priority businesses on gap. And how do we do that gap funding is going to be critical. We cannot expect private businesses to do the loss-bearing funding for a project unless there is gap capital coming separately. And this is the change which I think we need to make in mindset, and a sense of urgency and paranoia, which currently seems to be that we will transition our way. An existential issue of the planet is going to be after economic viability is protected. I don't think that's the time we have.
And along with that, TV Narendran, who is the CEO as well as MD of Tata Steel, speaks on the transition of the steel industry, and he says that the transition is a multi-decadal one. Listen in to what he has to say.
There's no silver bullet. There are a bouquet of solutions, which includes hydrogen, which includes carbon capture and usage, carbon capture and storage, everything. Because it's a $1 trillion industry, and India alone is going to add about 150 million tons of steel capacity every decade for the next few decades. Cement production is twice the amount of steel production globally. So you will have these hard-to-abate sectors growing. So you need to find solutions which are technical, which don't get solved by just finding another energy source. You need to use different materials. You need to more efficiently use steel and cement. And hence the transition is a multi-decadal kind of transition which needs to happen. Hydrogen strategy in Netherlands depends on Tata Steel's transition and usage of hydrogen. So we need to work closely with the government and potential suppliers to make this transition happen. We are lucky that our plant is a coastal plant, so that allows us a lot more flexibility in sourcing a lot of inputs. In UK, it's different. It could be a different approach because UK has a lot of scrap which it exports. So it's about how do you recycle that. In India, the challenge is most of the steel capacity is going to come up in Eastern India, where as of today, there's no gas or hydrogen. So you need to solve that problem before you start transitioning into a greener future. We'll have a solution which will depend on the context in which the steel industry operates in that country.
All right, with that, let's quickly slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll tell you about all the stocks that you should be keeping on your radar this Monday morning. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show, and we are on that part of the show where we take you through all the stocks that will be in action and in focus on the back of news announcements. And for that, we have Ansh in the studio with us. Ansh, a very good morning to you. Take us through all the stocks that's on your radar.
Sure, good morning. So Glen Pharma will be the first stock in focus for today's trading session, as US FDA had carried inspection at company's Hyderabad plant from 23rd August to 26th August. Following the inspection, the plant received Form 483 with 2 observations. Now the company needs to determine the appropriate steps to address these findings and rectify any issues. Apart from this, LIC and Tata Chemicals will be in focus, as LIC's shareholding in Tata Chemicals has increased from 7.12% to 9.17%. Karuvia's bank inaugurated 10 new branches on 25th August. Now let's have a look over a few order wins. Bharat Heavy Electricals won an order worth Rs 2,242 crore from NHPC for electromechanical works of a multi-purpose project. This order will be executed over 75 months. GI Infra's JV has won an order worth Rs 3,637 crore, out of which GR Infra's share is 50%. This order will be executed over 86 months. Lastly, GAIL will be in focus, as the company has won an order worth Rs 522 crore to build a pipeline. So keep an eye on the stocks.
All right, Ansh, thanks for taking us through that list. We will be keeping an eye out on all those stocks today. But my colleague Vamakshi is also joining in with all the important notes that the brokerages are releasing this morning and the stocks that they're keeping on their radar. Vamakshi, take it away.
Well, yes, let me first start off with delivery. We have a note coming in from Macquarie. Largely, they have highlighted that delivery is a very good proxy to India's e-commerce play. They expect to see a 19% 5-year revenue CAGR, and in fact, they're expecting the company to break even at the net profit level in FY24. They're also expecting an EBITDA margin to improvement to come in as far as delivery is concerned. Delivery has a net cash balance sheet, which is in fact giving it a very competitive edge. So given all these positive factors, Macquarie has maintained its outperform rating on delivery, but nevertheless hiked its target price to 520 rupees per share. Apart from that, we also have Suprajit Engineering in focus, and that is on the back of a brokerage note from Antique. They've largely highlighted is the fact that the company stands to gain immensely from recovery in the underlying industry. They're adding some new products, they're also adding new customers, and this in turn is expected to help in the next leg of growth. The LDC acquisition is expected to be a synergistic deal. In fact, despite the near-term pain in the non-auto business, the long-term outlooks look quite promising for Suprajit Engineering, and given all these positive factors, we have Antique initiating coverage on the counter with a buy rating, target price of 459 per share. And lastly, watch out for HAL. Now of late, the stock has definitely been in focus, but we have a note coming in from Morgan Stanley. Largely, they have highlighted is that India's aerospace industry has a long runway for growth. HAL's products continue to get traction to replace foreign fleet. In fact, the value addition that is happening locally is likely to increase following an MOU with GE on the engine side. Not just that, the export orders would also drive the stock closer to their bull case scenario. So given all these factors, Morgan Stanley has maintained its overweight call on HAL. Target price, they've heightened to 4,365 rupees per share.
Well, thank you, Vamakshi, for taking us through all the stocks that are on brokerage list. We'll keep an watch on these stocks, but stay with us as Shoppers Stop. They held an analyst call on the change of MD as well as CEO of the company, and the management has ensured a smooth transition and stated that the 4 strategic pillars will continue to be in focus as expected. So take us through all the key highlights.
Well, yes, but before that, let's also focus in on the stock move that actually took place on the Friday. On Friday, we did see the stock dip by almost over 13%, and that is after the MD and the CEO, Mr. Venugopal Nair, tendered his resignation. And in fact, this is important because he played a very pivotal role in the turnaround of the company. And under his tenure, we in fact saw the share price rise by almost 5 times. Now, let me quickly take you through some of the important takeaways from the con call that they held. Yes, they said that they will ensure that the transition would be seamless, and in fact, they also highlighted that the 4 strategic pillars will continue as expected, which was laid out over the past 3 years of his tenure. Store addition as well as beauty are expanding at a very brisk pace is what they have highlighted. Now, as far as attrition is concerned, they believe that this will be contained at the same level. Approximately, it will be at around 10 to 15% at the senior level and at 25 to 35% at the front end level. New initiatives of Intune as well as the beauty distribution are also expected to continue ahead with a very strong pace of expansion. Now, as far as Intune is concerned, which is obviously their value offering, the initial response has been very strong. They have highlighted that they recently forayed into the fast fashion value apparel category. They had nearly 2 stores in Hyderabad and 1 store in Mumbai. And in fact, for Intune, the management highlighted that the company is expected to scale this to nearly 20 stores in FY24 versus their initial guidance of 10 stores. So all in all, those were all the important highlights that came in from the management call, and that is the reason you should keep an eye out for this counter.
Alright, thanks Vamakshi. We will be keeping an eye out on this counter. Now, this counter was battered really badly in trade on Friday, down almost 12%. But with that, we will keep an eye out on this stock today. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Market Cafe. But you don't go anywhere because the market will take all the action ahead.